I want to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens lost yesterday to the Philadelphia Eagles, and their once generational kicker has now sputtered and he's looked very human, right? He hasn't looked like himself. He hasn't put together the season we usually expect from a Justin Tucker. And so it leads to the question, will Justin Tucker ruin the Ravens season? Will it happen? Daniel, what are your thoughts?
I think that, and this is what's different, I think that it definitely could. And we'll get to that. I think the cool thing, at least for the Ravens, and John Harbaugh said this, Lamar Jackson said this, they both put their full support behind Justin Tucker. They said, hey, that's the GOAT. I know what that dude can do. And I'm sure, he's a pro's pro. He's going to head into the bye week and he is going to get it right. That's what you want to see out of your head coach. That's what you want to see out of your quarterback. There is a train of thought that people believe that Justin Tucker should be released. And when you miss 8 kicks in a season, it does call for that. And he's done this before. 2015, he missed 7 field goals. What did he do the next year? He bounced back and made 98% of his kicks. So I think that he is right to be criticized, 1,000%. You can't miss 8 field goals in a season and not be criticized. But I'm with the Ravens on this one and saying, hey, listen, you have to roll with them this year. What else are you going to do? Are you going to go get a guy off of the waivers? Are you going to get a guy off of free agency? What is that going to do? Are you going to release, quote unquote, the greatest kicker of all time? That's not how it works, in my opinion. And I don't know if bringing in competition helps him right now. So I respect and I appreciate Harbaugh and Lamar putting their full, support behind Justin Tucker. But man, he could ruin their season. I'm not going to lie. You see many times close games come down to field goal kicking. And you see in the playoffs, Justin Tucker has been a huge reason why they've been in the position that they've been in the playoffs. And it hasn't been his fault. So when you combine that with the issues that Lamar Jackson's had in the playoffs, when you combine that with the issues that their offense has had in crunch time in the playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs, against the Buffalo Bills, against these great teams in the playoffs, that's how they can lose in the playoffs. So I think that we should be discussing this as a major talking point because they rely so heavily on the field goal game. But if I'm looking at the Ravens, maybe it just helps my game plan. He's saying, hey, listen, we might have to go for 2 at certain moments. And that's something that Harbaugh hasn't shied away from. So all around, I think this hurts the Ravens. And I think it could be a huge focal point in their game planning. But you can figure that out and you can go for 2. You can find ways to balance out, missing, an elite field goal kicker. So all around, I think that this Ravens team, it hurts them in the regular season right now because obviously that Eagles game would have been nice to have, but it's not like that was an AFC game. That was an NFC game. You're still in position. Maybe you might not be in position to win, your division anymore because the Pittsburgh Steelers are on an absolute heater, but you got to buy a week. Got at least 5 weeks to figure it out with Justin Tucker. So just kind of in a wait and see approach with Justin Tucker. And like you said, I think if you're the Ravens, you have time to game plan around this. You have time to implement 2-point conversions. And the stats say at times 2-point conversion is better to go for than kicking the field goal. So maybe this is a change of philosophy for the Ravens. Maybe it's not a surefire extra point. Maybe you're going for it on 4th and 1 in the playoffs, but hell, you got to be aggressive in the playoffs, especially with the issues that this Ravens team has had. So it's an issue, but I think that I don't think that this is the biggest issue that the Ravens have.
No, definitely not the biggest issue they have, but it's definitely an issue, right? Yeah. I mean, especially when you think about the margin, the point differential margin in the NFL is so slim. It really does come down to a field goal at points and times. And we're not just talking in the regular season. What's going to happen in the playoffs? You're not blowing teams out in the playoffs. You got some of the better teams in the playoffs that you have to deal with. Justin Tucker's going to have to kick a big kick for them at some point. He's going to have to. And he's going to have to actually nail the kick if the Ravens, want it to be want to realize their Super Bowl or even deep playoff run hopes. But let's not also, here's one thing I want to say, let's not also point the blame on a kicker.
Yep.
This is a guy in Lamar Jackson who everybody was crowning as MVP. You expect your MVP player to make MVP-like type plays, to not put yourself in a position where you have to go for a field goal kicker. Because I feel like that's what the narrative is going to be if they were to lose in the playoffs because of a missed kick. Is well, Justin Tucker missed the field goal kick for them. Well, what happened throughout the game? I never believe that, even though a game does sometimes come down to one play, right, that we're watching, there are things that happen throughout the game that led to that. And I don't think that Justin Tucker missing a field goal is something that we're going to look back at and we're going to say that's the reason why they lost, in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in time, your superstar MVP like quarterback is going to have to make a play. And I just think that to water it down to a kicker is basically avoiding the real conversation. And that's looking at Lamar Jackson and saying, hey, brother, this has been your MO. This has been your career MO. You do big things in the regular season. I'm sorry, you do big things in September and October. Now we're getting to December where your team is going to need you to do what you did in the beginning of the season. We're going to need you to step up in such a big way. We're going to need you to be that superstar that we know you could be. Can he do it? Can Todd Monken get Lamar Jackson playing to that type of level this deep into the season? This has always been Lamar Jackson's calling card. Let me just say that again, everybody. Lamar Jackson wins more MVPs for himself in September, October, and November than he actually does in December. It's the body of work of what he does in the beginning of the year. Sometimes it's because it starts to break down or whatever the case may be. But this time, looking squarely at you. This time, want to see if you can finally break through for your team, because guess what? The eyes of the world are on you. I'm not, see, that's the thing about doing the show. I'm not going to forget the conversations that were had in the beginning of the season. Luckily, you guys can't forget what I say either because it's documented video-wise. But this is stuff that breaks down all the way back in September. And now we need you to be who we need you to be in December. And can he do it? I go with this old saying, Daniel, Jimmy, everyone watching. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. This does not shock me, which is why I always say to everybody, don't crown him in September. Don't crown him in October. Don't crown him in November. When we get into the thick of things where you need to make crucial game-winning plays, you need to win crucial games. You got to look at the Browns game.
Yep.
Right? You got to look at it. You got to look at this game. This is a huge game. I understand you're going against the number one defense in football, but if you are who they say you are, well, you do big things. He did have one really, really impressive throw where he was able to break out a sack yesterday, and I thought that was very, very impressive by him. But you need more of that.
Yeah.
It can't just be one moment. When you get this deep into a season, it needs to happen consistently. That's why you're getting paid the big bucks, because they are expecting you to make big plays when they need it. I don't know. For me, this might sound like I'm being a Ravens hater. I promise you I'm not. I don't believe Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens have that in their DNA when it gets to this point. I think they're a very good regular season. Just like I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are a very good regular season team. But is it in your DNA to make a big play when we need you to? Don't believe so.